Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Who has the best shot in the CDL right now? They've released the accuracy statistics so far this season. A lot of SMGs appearing on the list, but the one AR in the top 5 is none other than Dashy. Maybe not a massive surprise to many, but is Dashy shot the best in the entire league based on the statistics? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. We got to talk as well about Counter-Strike 2. It was announced yesterday. Big surprise, I think, the amount of overhauls they're making to the game from my perspective. I know there were some discussions that it was going to be, Source 2, they were going to bring it to the game, but to me it always felt like they were going to make a Counter-Strike 2, just because Valve had made, Team Fortress 1 and then Team Fortress 2, and that was like the game that went on, and then Dota, and then Dota 2 is kind of like the eternal game they've got for Dota, it seems, and I thought they were going to do the same thing for Counter-Strike. So, I mean, look, Counter-Strike 2 is going to be a fantastic game. CSGO's been out for about a decade, and it would all be nice if in the Call of Duty world we could have a game that would last the test of time, and the developers cared, but obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon. I know there was some discussions though, who could go pro on CS2 if there was one pro player that could do it. Now Damon says nobody, right, which I think is probably the correct argument here. Now we know there's certain players that are very good at Valorant. Dashy, for example, is really good at Valorant, as are others, the likes of Skies, and I think Hydra as well, have played Valorant to a pretty good level. So it's not just Dashy that's good at Valorant, and at the same time, you could argue that Valorant is kind of like, it's CSGO nullified down a little bit. It's not quite at the same level that CS is, in my humble opinion. And I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that any of the current CDL players can actually go pro in Counter-Strike 2. Even to have any of them go pro in Valorant would be a challenge. But I think CS2 is honestly like an entirely different breed over in CS. But I know that the players will be playing it. It comes out in summer 2023, possibly after the World Championship, which will be kind of interesting to see like how the players get on, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of action play in CS2 when it launches, because CSGO has been the only game I've played for the last 2 months. I've just been playing an awful lot of CS lately, and for good reason, because the game's absolutely phenomenal and is timeless, and CS2 is even going to be a further step beyond that. And also they've changed the way the smoke mechanics work. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're changing the smoke mechanics to try and make the gameplay better and allow smokes to be usable without being abusable. And obviously people were saying, oh, in COD we can do the same thing, copy the CS2 smokes in COD and it'll be way better. You can't one-way them, there's no other issues. And it's like, well, if we had developers in COD that could actually code the smokes like they're trying to make them happen in CS2, then sure, it'd be fantastic. But the reality is that probably we're not getting anything like that anytime soon, but the pros will enjoy it nonetheless. And Clay reckons that the ultimate team is Hydra, Skies, Clay, Dashy, and Crim. That might be kind of a best of CDL and, well, former CDL in Crimson's case for the CSGO side or CS2 side. So we'll see how that goes. Another unfortunate update here from the Overwatch League. Now, I don't know yet what this means for the CDL, but let's kind of read between the lines a little bit and say, well, if the Overwatch League has signed a deal, which they clearly have, to stream on YouTube, then is it only a matter of time until the same thing happens for the CDL? We found out during Major 2 in Boston that we were going to go back to YouTube. That was the rumor at the time. Then Major 3 came round and it didn't happen. And we were like, okay, we're staying on Twitch for now, which is great, obviously, and we just smashed the viewership records out the park at Major 3. So the thing is, though, the Overwatch League, for their first tournament of the season, has signed a deal with YouTube Gaming. So to be honest, I don't expect it to be a different story in the CDL. I think next season we're going to be on YouTube again, and what that means for watch parties, and I know Scump can watch party over there, and they've got plans in place. I know that Scump and Zoom and the other guys to make this happen. It would be very unfortunate, but it might not be the end of the world. Whether they do this mid-season though, because of course this is for the kickoff, I guess, of the Overwatch League season. The Overwatch scene's a complete mess, and I know they had their new game, and whether they've even started the season yet, I don't know, but potentially this is the start of the season, and therefore maybe they wouldn't change the CDL mid-season, but I guess we're going to have to stay tuned. But don't be surprised if we're on YouTube relatively shortly here, which is unfortunate to say, but Activision Blizzard, baby, they do what they want. Also wanted to mention this. So we've seen Arden Forest. You guys might remember Treegate from back in the day on Arden Forest, where Clayster pointed out all the trees that were on the map, and they were like, were these trees here before? And there were so many of them. People were like, well, there's no way that I've never spotted all these trees. So Beans reckon he's got a similar story here with these elephants on what is this is Mikado, right? And he was like, damn, these elephants must have just spawned in. There's no way they've been here the whole game. And some people were pointing out, which is kind of funny actually, that right at the top of this image, if I just make it kind of zoom it out just a touch, you can see that the room name is the elephant room. So people call this tin, but I think the actual call out in the game is elephant room, probably for a good reason, because there's some elephants sitting on the side here. So probably they have been there since launch, and Octane reckons that indeed they have. I looked at them day 2 in scrims and tweaked at them, so yeah, he reckons they have been there so don't worry too much about that one, but maybe another bit of Mandela effect is what they call it, right? Also, this one Los Angeles Thieves thought was interesting about it. They did the 0 to 100 episode, and Kenny's controller took the L at this event. And this is, like, you could argue it's an excuse or whatever, but of course he had to move over to his backup controller. Some water bottles spilt everywhere, and his controller was dead, his controller was ruined, and he was frustrated about it. I know that Standy said in the replies here that for him, if a controller dies, it takes him like an entire week to kind of break in the new one, because I think Standy likes his sticks to be a bit looser on the controller. So yeah, bit of a shambles for Thieves. Of course, Kenny individually had a pretty poor showing, and he says he was not okay mentally after this. One of the worst things that can happen to you is that your controller dies, and he says on to the next. So yeah, unfortunate. Maybe that's one of the weird turn of events that affected them to the top 8 placing they had, but still, they're going to have to turn things around quick, Thieves, if they want to actually win a championship this season. Speaking of Thieves, thought it was cool that Pentagram got his ring. I believe that the CDL will manufacture 5 for the players and the substitutes, and maybe for the coach as well. I don't exactly know. Like, the CDL will pay to get a certain amount manufactured. I'm guessing like the LA Thieves had some kind of say in the design here, right? Okay, maybe the CDL came up with this beautiful looking ring, but I don't know. Pentagram got one anyway, despite never playing a game for Thieves, which is pretty impressive. So, you know, good job to Pentagram, I suppose. Also, this one, Mutineers headed back to LAN. Confirmation that I think it's the first match of the season, or April the 1st on the Saturday, when they play the Florida Mutineers. That's in Wisconsin at the Minnesota Rokkr home series. So pretty cool stuff. I think the Rokkr play 2 games that day as well. They play Mutineers and they play Los Angeles Guerrillas, and they tried to find a way to make it work a bit better where, you know, in an ideal world, Mutineers also play Guerrillas on the same day, and there's like 3 games that happen from the same venue. But it's cool. They're flying out there. Hopefully this works really well for the Rokkr guys. And yeah, if you guys are local, then definitely have a look to potentially get involved and attend. Let's talk then about who has the best shot in the entire league. And these are the sharpshooters according to the CDL themselves. The top 5 most accurate players thus far in the CDL for 2023. So this is the accuracy leaderboard. And well, accuracy is unfortunately for him not in attendance here. Now, 4 of these 5 are SMG players. One of which is Standy, who's of course no longer on a team. And the top 2 are Pred, who's on 33% of his shots hit, and Vivid is way higher at 36.2%. Number 1 in the league by quite some margin. And this is not a new phenomenon here for Vivid. It was the same story back in, I don't know if it was in Vanguard, but I know that some people said that the last 3 years in a row, Vivid's had the highest percentage accuracy. And I think in Cold War it was even higher than this. Now, this statistic, I don't know how meaningful it realistically is, because certain players, for example, Gunless has always been a good example of this when I used to watch him in World War II. He would overshoot a lot of his players because, you know, sometimes you shoot someone, you think they're dead, you turn away, and they're not dead. Can happen based on netcode, on hit registration, on just weird things that happen where the bullets somehow miss even though you think they're going to hit. So therefore, what Gunless I noticed would do a few years ago, he would deliberately overshoot a good 2 bullets, probably more than you would usually overshoot. Usually you kill someone and shoot maybe 1, 2, 3 more bullets on them just to make sure. Or realistically, it's like by the time you know they're dead and you can react to them being dead, then you stop shooting and it's probably an extra couple of bullets you've fired. Gunless would often deliberately shoot a couple extra just on the occasions where he wouldn't have actually killed them. Then he'd get the kill anyway. So I think that's some things that some players do, some players don't do that. And of course, every shot extra you fire reduces your shots hit and accuracy. And we'll talk in a second as to exactly why the SMGs might be dominating here. And also the highest numbers back in the Cold War season were indeed 41% from Vivid. And I'll just show a clip here from Dashy with the TAC, obviously the only AR player appearing on that list.
What's that time? Watch out. What's that time? He's got headache. Good.
I'll help you. Alright, choke, Danny. I'll plug it.
Maybe me?
On a bit. On a bit and Elder. Elder, Cammy and one on a bit. Nice. On a bit, Sean, now. I'll plug it.
Reception. Right.
There's 2 off, 1 down.
Oh my god! Oh!
I'm gonna go to bed.
Nah, dude. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh.
You're actually crazy.
Look at them, they're running.
Like,
Who the f are you challenging? Who the f are you challenging? Sit the f down.
So as I say, how relevant really is this statistic? Now, I think really the reason why we see more SMGs here is because, first of all, ARs do more wall banging in general, and I'm guessing this is percentage shots hit just overall, right? Out of all the shots fired, how many hit the target? And that's probably the number you're looking at here. So players that wall bang, players that shoot bodies, right? Like, their numbers will go down. They really should have a stat that's like percentage of shots hit when seeing an opponent or something, or when like intending to kill, which is, for our API is going to be pretty tough to actually manage to figure out what's happening there. But Dashy is the only AR on this list. Now, first of all, I think SMGs, you're going to see more on this list because SMGs are at closer range. Therefore, their gunfights are generally easier. They're going to be able to hit more shots at closer range than ARs are fighting at distance. There's also the fact that because SMGs probably take one extra shot to kill the Vaznav at certain ranges, it means that if you're snapping onto target, miss maybe your first 2 bullets, hit the next 5, and then miss 2, your percentage accuracy is going to be higher than it is if you're an AR and you miss 2, hit 4, then miss 2 because, the final 2 you miss are on target, but the guy's already dead. So for a number of reasons, given the wall banging factor and the fact that it seems that using an AR, especially at range, is more challenging, the fact that Dashy is on here is pretty remarkable, to be honest. The fact that he's mixing it up with Hydra and Pred and in that kind of ballpark. Vivid's always been high for various reasons, I suppose. But yeah, Dashy the only AR player on here. Not a massive surprise, as I say. We know that Dashy's shot is incredible. One of the best, if not straight up the best shot in the entire league based on the numbers. And as I say, there's plenty of other great players that aren't appearing on here because their accuracy is lower for various reasons. Doesn't mean they're worse players necessarily, but it does get the point across that some of the most talented players in the league, Pred, Dashy, Hydra, certainly up there in that conversation, are appearing on this list. Dashy goes on to say levels to this gunny, right? So in terms of all the ARs in the league, Dashy is #1 in terms of raw aim and ability. And this is one of the reasons why when Dashy was dropped from OpTic, it was such a massive surprise. Even last season, right, when in the off season, they made the call to get rid of Dashy. I remember reading through the comments on OpTic dropped like a podcast episode the same day they dropped Dashy in the off season. And the comments were like, what are you fools doing? Like, why are you dropping Dashy? This is not a good idea. And this is the reason why at the end of the day, Dashy has been chosen over Rambo in a sense. Rambo's still part of OpTic, but they had to make a call. Do they keep Rambo as the coach, or do they maintain Dashy being happy on the team? And when you've got a raw talent like this, and we know that Dashy is like leveling up his game outside of the game as well, like kind of Formal's mentorship, it seems, also has helped him along the right direction, and like he's getting better all across the board, but his gun skill certainly hasn't gone away. And when you've got a player as talented as that, there really is, no other option you can do other than let this guy stay on the team and let him absolutely fry the competition. I wanted to mention a couple of things before we close up. Firstly, this was pretty remarkable. Slasher versus Arcitys career comparison. Rather similar. I know that there's always conversation which of these players should be in the top 10 all time. To me, I have Slasher in it. To me, Arcitys isn't quite there, but some would disagree because the numbers partly favour Arcitys, but I think it always depends on circumstances as well. Slasher has been to 70 events, won 9 championships, as has Arcitys. Slasher's been in 20 finals, Arcitys has had 18. Obviously a one-time world champ for Slasher 2016, Arcitys 2 times in 2019 and 2021, and the average placings are relatively similar as well. But of course, for a large percentage of Arcitys' career, he was on either the United or the FaZe team, so like team with great players. This is what the people say about Crim as well. He got carried by other great players. So how much does that take away or add? Difficult to say. To me, Slasher gets the edge for now, but Arcitys could turn it around. But for now, obviously, Slasher is going to probably extend that advantage based on the team differential these guys are currently experiencing. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.